Is
Well, Peppy, you're live now, so you get to tell it to everybody. I
yeah,
had a
okay.
terrace on
We're live
24th.
now?
Yeah,
Are
we're
we on the air?
live. We're
Oh,
on
you
the
son of
air.
a gun. Okay. All right
So,
then.
no, we have to tell the story because Peppy and I lived, everybody, this is Peppy Castro of the Blue Magoo.
Mr. Magoo here.
Now,
I
wait a
am
minute. We lived across the street from each other. This is crazy.
yes. Yeah. You were
But
in the Penny Lane, and I bought an apartment in a little federal building. I bought the penthouse, which was a triplex. And so I built the place out. I ripped out a spiral staircase. I put a regular staircase in because I didn't want to have to carry my gear up and down and all that stuff. I made my terrace like a boat. Yeah, I put a shower out there. I put a drain in there. I could sit out there at our mutual restaurant, the little Italian restaurant,
Casamia.
Casamio, which was fabulous. They were like, I would order it up for them every day.
Casamia didn't come in until the 80s. There was something else there before that.
Yeah, I forget what it was before that.
I
When did you go in there?
I lived on 24th Street starting in 1973. My mother had an apartment in the other on Second Avenue and 24th on the east side of the street.
Wow.
Then on the corner of Third Avenue and 24th in that building. Then I moved into the Penny Lane, and then I bought an apartment in the Tracy Tower, 245 East 24th. I lived there for like 30 years.
Wow. 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 I mean, I got some racy stories, but with one from your building,
Yeah.
I don't know if I should start off with this. This is
Go
pretty,
ahead, open with
pretty
it. Let's
insane.
let's
Okay,
hear
so
it.
okay, buckle up, everybody. All right, so I have my apartment. I got European roll-up shutters. I
No,
built
wait,
them.
what year did you move in?
I moved in. I bought it. Let me see. My son was born in '88. I probably moved in around '86.
Okay, all right. So by that time, I was already going to Tracy Towers. Yeah.
Oh, you have?
Yes,
Oh,
that's why
that's
you.
why we missed each other.
I
Okay.
was at least two doors down.
But they had these little terraces, these
Hmm.
tiny little terraces outside. And
I
so
had a terrace.
I'd always be sunning myself. And because I had showers out there and I had people over on my terrace and everything else like that. And so every once in a while, I'd be out there and there would be a girl across the street. And she would come out on a little terrace and she kept like, hi, kept waving to me and I'd wave. So finally, after months and months, she started talking to me like across the street. And then I said, this is stupid. Come down and give me your number, put it on my mailbox. So she puts the number on my mailbox. You can't make this stuff up. The trials and tribulations of whatever that means of Peppy, right? Okay. So we get numbers. Now we're calling each other up, right?
Yeah.
So I had one of the first Kloss Nova beams, right? Which were the
What?
projection TVs, the
Oh.
first ones that came out. And so I had to wait for Trump's to get his installed before I could get mine. And I had a motorized screen that came down over my fireplace, right? So I hit the screen, put the Nova beam on. And so one night I'm by myself in the apartment and I pull out my couch and I said, you know what? I'm going to sit down. Raiders of the Lost Ark had just come out, right? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to watch this. So I get it. I didn't pull my shutters down, right? Because it was dark out. So I get the thing on, the screen's blasting, and this girl across the street can see my big screen going on over my fireplace. All of a sudden, my phone rings, right? And it's like, hi, what are you watching? I was like, what? It's the girl across the street. So now she comes up and she says, what are you watching? I said, I was getting ready to watch a movie. She goes, you want company? I said, you want to come over? I said, sure, come on over. So now she comes over to watch the movie. Needless to say, we didn't watch the movie. Fast forward, by the time we're done, she gets up to me. She gives me a big hug and a kiss. She goes, you're really a cool guy. You're really a fabulous lover, but I'm getting married on Saturday. So this can't happen anymore. And I was like, what?
I love
I was
it.
just like, oh, what am I, your bachorette party? And she
That
goes,
is so 80s.
so if you see me standing outside on the terrace with my husband, please don't wave.
Oh my God. Okay, I have it figured out now. I lived in the Penny Lane from 78 to 85, and then I got divorced. I left my husband, and I didn't live there from 85 and 88. I bought Tracy Towers, and it was in that period between 85 and 88 that Joanne Malazzo took me to your penthouse, and I wasn't on that street anymore. That's why I didn't say, "Hey, I live across the street."
That's
Come
what
on
you
over.
you had the opposites. You were coming the opposite way. It was across town, yeah, but it was where you used to live. Yeah. Oh, my parties were infamous. I mean, they were.
So I hear, and speaking of which, Carol Kay's on here, who lived on Third Avenue. Wait, which street was Carol on? She said she was 330 Third Avenue. I can't
Oh,
remember which.
Smushy?
Yeah, Smushy.
Smushy. Okay, yeah, Smushy was on the third. I gotta say, I had Robin Beck. Do you know Robin Beck?
I don't think I knew Robin
Fabulous
Beck.
singer. We're doing her record right now with her husband, James Christian. It's great. It's coming out on Frontiers. She is a killer singer, and I'm happy to be on it. And I got a bunch of Peppy in there, and it's so that's one of the projects going on right now. So I'll say hi to Robin because I know she's listening. She said I'm gonna listen. So all that good stuff. But yeah. So who were we talking about? There's so many people. Oh, Carol. Carol lived on 27th or 28th
And
between Lexington.
no, her address is Third Avenue. Her address is 330 Third Avenue is her address. But I've known Carol and Ricky since back then too, since 1986.
I know Carol since 1972.
Oh, it's crazy. But
I used to
Joanne
date her.
Malazzo, Joanne
Yes,
was drawing
but
you
Joanne.
at the Night Owl in the
Yeah, I know Joanne
60s.
since I'm 15.
Okay, that's just all right. So we have to talk about this because and we're both Bronx kids. Where in the Bronx did you live?
I grew up, well, first of all, I was born in Manhattan.
Right, but 106th and Broadway, right?
Yeah, I lived on 106th and Broadway. I was
So
born
123rd in Broadway late.
Right, okay. Fifth Avenue Flower Memorial Hospital. My dad dies when I'm 5 months old.
Oh,
My mom remarries when I'm 4, and we all get moved up to the Bronx. And where did I get adopted? At the Bronx Criminal Court, where you said you used to live.
right by the courthouse. Oh my gosh.
So
and what neighborhood did you live?
I lived up in the Bedford Park section of the Bronx.
Bedford Park. I don't know.
That's
Bedford
like
Park.
10 blocks north of Fordham Road.
Okay, well, Fordham Road, Alexander's, Jan's Ice Cream
Alexander's,
Parlor.
oh my God, the Grand Concourse, all that stuff, absolutely. But instead of going to school when I was 13 years old, I used to go to the writing academies down Pelham Parkway.
I lived in Pelham Parkway.
And I used to take my book, which I've been writing for 6 years now. It's called The Prince of McDougall Street.
All right, Peppy, wait, I have to show you if I can find one. Go ahead, I'm listening. Shit. The book that I wrote that took me 13 years. This is this is the corner of the China Club, 75th and Broadway.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
a whole nother story.
Right.
We'll get to that.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
All right.
But-
So wait, what's the name of your book?
The Prince of McDougall Street.
Now tell the story because I heard this.
Okay, so Alan Merrill, our dear Alan Merrill, who passed away during COVID. For those of you who don't know, Alan Merrill was the co-writer on I Love Rock and Roll, Put Another Dime in the Jukebox, and a fabulous talent. So I'm doing an interview with Alan one day, this is maybe
Right.
10, 15 years ago, and he comes out and he goes, oh, well, Peppy's the Prince of McDougall Street. And I was like, what? I said, Alan, what are you talking about? He goes, Peppy, you're the Prince of McDougall Street. I said, Alan, where did you get that from? He goes, you never heard that? I said, you're telling me 45 years later, I'm the Prince of McDougall Street? He goes, yeah. He goes, Peppy, when you got off stage at the Night Owl, you would come out of the Night Owl, you'd walk around 3rd and McDougall, and when you passed us, everybody would say, that's Peppy Magoo. He's the Prince of McDougall Street.
And you never knew that?
No, I never knew it.
That's
never knew it.
absolutely crazy.
I never even saw that video clip I showed you of me at 16 years old in the Night Owl, which I just shared with you like an hour ago.
I just sent that to Joanne. She said, oh, I saw that years ago.
Yeah, she saw it. She's up on all this stuff. Yeah, hi,
She
Joanne.
told me that Joe Mara, was that his name?
Joe Mara, yeah.
Mara is down at the corner of the bar in that video.
Okay, Joe Mara story. All right.
Okay.
Here we go. One of the best lines I've ever heard in my life, especially from a club owner. The Blues Magoos are just starting now to write their own material, and we're not doing covers, and we're in rotation at the Night Owl. We worked our asses up to get into the Night Owl Cafe. So now we're in rotation.
Wait, now how old are you? You're like a baby.
I'm 50. Well, I got there when I was 14.
We're going to talk about how you did that, but okay, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm at this point, I'm probably 16. Okay. Or maybe 15. I'm probably 15 because the Magoos didn't have a hit record yet or any, right? Okay. And so we're living in the Albert Hotel, the Hotel Albert, and we're starting to write. We ain't got nothing yet. And the hotel is letting us rehearse in the basement of the hotel, which is like insane, a hotel that lets a rock band rehearse in the basement of a hotel. So we're rehearsing in the basement of a hotel, and we're getting, the psychedelic thing is starting to happen in LA and all this stuff. Yeah, there you go. And so we're going through all this stuff, and we start rehearsing. We're starting to figure out we're a psychedelic rock and roll band with Tobacco Road and all this stuff. So one night we go in the night and we say, come on, we're going to try it. And we try it and all of a sudden we're doing it and we're loving it. And when we get off the stage, Joe Mara's like, and he's like, come here, you fucking lames. And he takes us back and he goes, I don't want to hear that shit out of you guys ever again. If you guys keep playing this stuff, you're going to be fired. And we're like, oh, Joe, come on. He goes, I'm telling you, you're going to be fired. So we go through the night. We go back to the hotel and we go, fuck Joe. Who's he to tell us to do this? Like, come on. We're not going to listen to Joe. We're going to do what we want. So we keep working up the songs. We go back into the Night Owl. And now we're going to do it again. It's like the next week now. And we start going all the stuff with the echo plexus. And we're doing this. And all of a sudden, Joe Mara starts flashing the lights. And we go like, holy shit, Joe's really into it. No, Joe was telling us, get the fuck off the stage. Because we were doing this stuff. So our set ends again. It's at the end of the night. And once again, Joe goes. And he takes it to the back of the kitchen. He goes, I told you fucking lames. If he was Italian. He kept the baseball bat under there. We had front page guys that he would hide from New Jersey and all this stuff in and out of the club, all the Italian social clubs back down then when the village was like, heavily like that, And so he goes, I told you fucking guys, if you did that again, you were going to be fired. He goes, you're fucking fired. And we go, Joe, come on. How can you fuck us like that? And Joe says, hey, if you can't fuck your friends, then who can you fuck? I'm 16, 15 years old, and I'm listening to that, and I'm going, oh, we're fired. I'm freaking out, but I'm thinking to myself, what a line.
But you didn't really get fired.
No, we got fired.
You did?
We got fired. He took us back in 2 weeks.
Oh my God. Oh my. All right. So now, how the hell are you playing in clubs when you're I mean, I know New York was loose. I used to be able to get drinks in clubs. How are you playing in clubs at 14? How is this happening?
Well, I was left back in the 9th grade because
where did you go to junior high?
I was supposed to go to Creston Junior High School, right? Which was in 179th Street or something on Creston Avenue, a block off of the Grand Concourse, right?
Yeah.
But in my elementary school, I was the king shit. I was captain of the Boys Guard. You had to be elected. You had to go up there and play the political role and say, I'm running for office as captain of the Boys Guard. And so I became captain of the Boys Guard. So I had belts. I had badges that said captains and lieutenants and things. And I'm like, hey, this is great. Mind you, I never went to class because they let me do all the duties. So I took nurse's duty, the bathroom duty, this.
God.
And I take all my friends. I was a little Gino. I was out of my mind, right? So I did finally it caught up to me at the end of the year and they went, come in, and the principal calls me and it goes, you would do 24 book reports. You haven't done a one. Where are they? They were like, give us your badge, give us your belt. And it was like,
Oh.
they just pulled the rug out of me and went, oh, okay.
Oh my
And then I went,
God.
and then I went crazy to write all these little book reports, and I'd buy these old classic scholastic comic books, even though told me they said, and don't do a classic, we'll know if it's that. And I said, because I don't have a choice, right? So now I'm going into an all-boys school in the 7th grade, Creston Junior High School. They were all boys. And I'm thinking,
Okay.
and some of these kids are in the 9th grade and they're left back maybe 2 years even. And, they're like guys with beards and everything. And I'm going into 7th grade going, oh, I better wash my ass. And only the kids that came from my school thought I was still something, But so I got through that. By the 9th grade, they said to me, because in the 9th grade, I would take my pass with another kid and we would go down to Manhattan and see the game shows, the morning game shows. We'd go there. And then finally one day we were sitting in, I forget what it was, Jeopardy or something like that. And the host
How
goes,
would you get into that?
we'd get online and we'd go in and we'd sit there. And then, how they prep the audience before the airtime and all that stuff. All of a sudden the guy came out and he went, hey guys, what? No school? And we went, no. Yeah. And we never did that again. But my friends turned me on to the writing academies up on Pelham Parkway. And we used to go there on a Saturday night and hide up in the haylofts when I'm 12, 13 years old. And we'd see guys hanging out and making out with girls and all this stuff. And we'd peek down there and everything. And as long as I mucked out the guy's barn, he'd let us ride and stuff. So I would take my bus pass. I put my cowboy boots on and my hat and everything. And I would take my bus pass. And instead of going to junior high school, I would go up Pelham Parkway and I'd muck the guy's barn out at 7:30 in the morning. And then I'd go take horses out. I teach myself how to ride.
Now, wait a minute. Are you playing music already? When do you start playing?
No, I started playing at 13 because I was doing a church play and I had to mime the Kingston Trio.
Wow.
And one guy out of 3 guys knew how to play a little guitar. And I felt less than because this guy could play the song. And I was like, I don't want to get up there and play pretend. So I asked the kid one day, and his name was Rick, and I said, hey man, can you just show me how to play guitar? And he went, yeah, come over to my house after school. I went over to his house. He showed me an E minor chord. And when I went like that, the sky opened up, as the zipper happened, my aha moment, I went, I can be 2 people. See, I'm a little Gemini. Here's my Gemini thing, right? And I went, because I love to sing at 4 years old from 4 years.
I was just going to ask you, when did that happen? So you're singing already?
My whole life.
Your whole life.
My whole life. Anything on the radio, I sang it. That was it.
And were you in school plays? Were you singing in school plays?
No, I didn't go to school.
No, because you weren't going to school.
So not only did I not graduate high school, I didn't even go, right? So what happened was that this guy showed me that and I went, I can be the singer and the guy who plays for the singer. It was like, then all school stopped.
Oh,
I
God.
tortured my mother till she got me a beast of a guitar at a pawn shop on Fordham Road and a little chord book. And every minute of the day, I would sit.
What was your first guitar? I had a Harmony Sovereign. Do you remember those?
Oh, no, mine was like a Kent.
Oh, did you have like an electric guitar first?
No.
No.
Beast of an acoustic, right?
Oh, okay.
With a little chord book. And if I played anywhere after school in the neighborhood and tried to learn, all my friends would go, you suck, And I was like, all right, I can't do this around these guys. So then I'd go over to the park. Then I went to a Villa Avenue feast. Villa Avenue was the only other Italian neighborhood other than Arthur Avenue.
I was just going to say Arthur Avenue was everything.
Yeah, Arthur was the big one. Villa was the secondary one. So I go to a Villa. Okay. I go to a Villa Avenue feast, and I see these 3 guys playing. One's got a Chesterfield coat and a little turtleneck. He's got an organ. The other guy's the bass player, and there's a drummer. And at that point, I could play a few chords. So I just went up and started talking to them. They were Ralph Scaller and Ronnie Gilbert, who ended up being original members of the Magoos. And after that, so then
now are they older than you?
they were they had already graduated high school when I
Oh,
had to take the ninth grade over at Dewitt Clinton. But when I went to Dewitt Clinton, which was 3,000 boys,
yeah,
now mind you, this is in the days where if you walked around with long hair, you took your life into your hands.
absolutely.
Okay. You might as well have just been in the deep south and been at the doorway and said, where do I go? Colors or whites? It was that bad, right? So I'm going to the school, and the dean of the school is like, he's coming up to me every day. God bless you, sweetie. He's coming up to me every day saying, you got to cut your hair. You're not going to be in this
Oh
school.
my
And
God.
I'm like, And finally, I wouldn't do it, right? Finally,
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it. So he says, you're going to sit in front of my office. From now on, you don't go to any classes. You come here and you sit in front of my office all day long, every day, until you cut your hair and you stop wearing those boots. After 2 weeks of doing that, I'd be like, so freaking bored, and I'm like, finally after that, I went, fuck this. I'm not going to school. And I would go to Ronnie Gilbert's house with Ralph Scala, and we would learn how to play songs.
Oh my God.
And
They were already out
they
of
were
high
already
school.
out. They didn't have any of those problems.
Oh
I was a
God.
Yeah, so that was the beginning of the Magoos, and we were the trench coats. And then we kept going on, and then we started migrating, going down to the village.
Okay, now wait, where did the name Blues Magoos come from?
Blues Magoos came from, believe it or not, Tom Wilson and a bunch of people at CBS. My first manager managed Tom and Jerry, who were
Wow.
Simon and Garfunkel,
Right.
right? And he was a
They
guy
played
named
at my stepmother's graduation from Forest Hills High School.
as Tom and Jerry,
Yes, they were Tom and Jerry.
So Tom Wilson was this huge black guy. He was like 6'4", and he was a big A&R guy for, he did Dylan and all the stuff,
Right.
for CBS. And so we set up an audition with him, and we're on the train coming down from the Bronx with a snare and a bass drum and a little cymbal and our bass and a little organ speaker and a little bass and and we're going to play 2 guitars and a bass through a little Kent amp. And I'll never forget it because Tom Wilson we played Satisfaction only. And it was like, that's all you fucking heard. And we did it in his office. And the guy got down on his hands and knees, this big 6'4", 6'5" guy, and he's trying to hear what we're saying in the speaker. This is how raw it was, right?
Oh my
And he comes
God.
up and he loves it, but then he was so depressed when he found out it wasn't our song,
Oh.
But eventually he and a bunch of people came up with us because then once we evolved and we were coming up through the ranks in the village, we played all the little cubby holes.
So wait, you're playing all covers then? Originally?
Yeah, we were playing all covers then. We would play the Village Music Hall and the Cafe Bazaar, which were right next to each other. Some nights we would do a set in there, and then we take our instruments and walk around and go right into because they'd be stuck for a band. They'd say, come on, do a set for me now. And we'd go back and forth. And between the Cafe War and those places, eventually we worked up to the Magoos. Yeah.
So now they don't mind playing with a 14-year-old, these high school boys.
They thought I was older.
Oh.
But
now, wait, what's your mother doing through all of this?
My stepfather had 3 heart attacks and a stroke by the time I was 7. And she nursed him. He was paralyzed. He could speak. It was like having the mummy around,
God rest his soul, gosh.
And that's where I got the name Thielhelm from. I was born Emilio Castro. But when I got adopted to my stepfather, they changed my name. He didn't like Emilio because that was Latin, and his name was of German descent, so they made it Emil, right? So I grew up as Emil Thielhelm. I was like Engelbert Humperdinck growing up. But at that point in time, I was happy not to be Castro because everybody hated Castro in Cuba.
Right. Oh my, that's right. The 60s.
I was
my God.
Okay, don't knock it. Just do this. But first day of school, I'd be in the last kid in the last row. Emil, that'd be like, So it
Wait,
was,
Joanne's asking if you played the Cinderella Club on West 3rd Street.
if I still what?
If you ever played at the Cinderella Club on West 3rd Street.
No, no,
Okay.
I remember it. And no. I mean, once we got out of the Night Owl, that was it. But, I'm seeing Hendrix beat Jimmy James in the Blue Flame. And I met Lonnie Youngblood back then.
I was going to say, Hendrix was down there playing at the Wow. I mean, all of those people were down there. Oh
Yeah,
my God.
yeah, all the people were down there, and Lonnie Youngblood was the guy who told me where to get my hair processed because my hair was kinky when I was a kid. I wanted straight hair, so me and Ronnie Gilbert were on the 3rd floor above from the Metropole Cafe, right on the corner of where Manny's was and all that stuff. Sam Ash didn't even exist then.
Right.
On that. And I got Almond Brothers stories when they came as the Almond Joys, and we told them that,
What? Tell.
yeah, well, when the Magoos, before we broke, we had a booking agent book us down in Florida, and we played in Daytona. And these two little tall lanky guys came up to us after we did a set. Hundreds of kids. I mean, we used to play in the Night Owl, which is like, a few rows, and it was like, there's nothing. Everybody's drinking coffee and they're smoking pot outside and all this stuff, and all of a sudden we're in a venue and there's hundreds of kids in Florida, and these two lanky guys come up to us and they want to know everything about the band and all this stuff. And we're like, yeah. One guy's name was Dwayne and the other guy's name was Greg.
Oh
right?
my God.
And so we say, hey man, if you ever come up to New York, come look us up. So lo and behold, they tell us they come up to New York and they're playing Trudy Heller's, which at that point was on the corner of 9th and 6th Avenue.
Okay.
Right? There was Trudy Heller's and the Eighth Wonder. Joel Heller was Trudy's son and he owned the Eighth Wonder. But these were like bars, So
Right.
you had to play covers. So me, Ronnie, and Ralph take a walk one day because they found out that the guys from Florida were there. And Greg's on a Hammond and Dwayne is playing, and they're the Almond Joys.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
No
they're the Almond Joys.
kidding.
So then we hung out with them and said, man, you come on back down to the hotel, man. Come on. You got to come down to the Night Owl, come down to the Night Owl and all this stuff. And so we were like, dude, start writing your own songs. Change the name of your band, all this kind of stuff. And by 1969, this is 1966 probably, by 1960, but then the Magoos hit. And when the
Okay, now
Magoos-
wait. So how did you guys write Nothing Yet? How did you break from the covers to doing your own music?
Well, the more we started playing in the village, the cool thing was that I actually witnessed the village going from folk to electric.
Wow.
So you had no
Wow.
electric clubs back then,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Dave Van
Now,
Ron,
Dylan was playing down there then, wasn't he?
Robert Zimmerman was walking around
course.
every day with his guitar case.
Jesus.
David Blue, Richie Havens, who I met when I was 15, became a lifelong friend. Richie and
Wow, I
I.
loved Richie.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I met Richie when I was 15.
wow.
He walked into the Cafe Bazaar. And I'm standing on stage. We just rehearsed in a Saturday afternoon. They let us rehearse for nothing. Nobody's in the club. All the other guys went out to eat. I had no money. I didn't. I stayed in there. This big tall guy comes walking in with trinkets and everything else. And he goes, hey kid, you in a band? And I went, yeah. He goes, you want to hear a song? I went, sure. Pulls out like 12 pages of lyrics and all this stuff. He goes, I've been working on this for 2 weeks. And he starts to sing Me Follow, which was on his first record, Mixed Bag. And it's just me sitting on the stage.
Wow.
And Richie Havens. And, his hands were huge.
Did he already have that booming voice? He already had that booming voice,
yeah.
right?
I hired Richie for All Aboard Amtrak. I did Amtrak commercials with Richie.
Wow.
The first TV show I ever did was with Richie, was the Clay Cole Show in New York.
Wow.
All the stuff. And Richie and I stayed friends all those years. So it was great to have him come into the studio and sing All Aboard Amtrak and do all that stuff. I did one of his videos. I'm in one of his videos and all the stuff. Yeah.
All right, we're going to talk about the jingles later, but first, okay. So so you have to write your own material.
Yeah, because we see that this is starting to happen. The scene's starting to grow. And what happens is that
What made it go from folk to electric? What was was it Jimi Hendrix? What was the turning point
the
there?
British invasion. The
Ah,
British invasion, because there were three girls from Brooklyn, and we called them the Brooklyn Bouncers, and they were big boned, Solvay, and I forget the others and stuff like that. One ended up marrying, oh, what's her name? Marlene. I think she married Jerry Yester, I think, who was one of these big bands. If you looked it up, it'd probably come up on Google and stuff. But they would go up to the Hilton Hotel, and every time an English band came into New York, all the English bands wanted to go down to the Village to see the American bands. So Jagger's walking in one night, all these people
wow.
are coming in, and the West Village is on fire. The East Village hadn't even taken off yet.
Uh-huh.
The West Village is totally on fire, and so because electric bands started going, then it was the flavor to like, hey, let's, this is it. If you want to get anywhere, start writing our own songs. We won't play. First of all, we got one job at Trudy Heller's because it's the only way we could get a booking agent down to see us live, because they wouldn't go to a coffee house because they didn't serve drinks. So I got a bogus cabaret's license off of the street. That's what I mean. You can find anything on the street. So
Right.
I found a cabaret. I got a cabaret's license, which meant I could play. They thought I was 18, and we hated it because we didn't want to be around all these people drinking. We wanted to be with the hippies down on 3rd and
Oh,
McDougall.
how funny.
But we had an agent in there, and who was on the bill? It was a bunch of people on the bill. I forget who they were, but they were kind of well known, And so we're in there. We played 2 nights. The agent came down. He liked us, and then we told the club, this kid, we leaked it that this kid's underage and he's got a phony cabaret's license, and we got fired immediately. We were like, great, we don't have to play in this place. So we would go back down to the Night Owl, But the vogue was to start writing songs, and once we got into that, because Dylan's walking around writing his songs, Richie, all these people are doing stuff down there, and it's all starting to change. And all of a sudden, guys, unfortunately, like Dave Van Ronk, and Tim Harden crossed over a little bit, a bunch of other guys, but everybody was knocking around in the Village. Mama
Right.
Cass at one point was the hostess in the Night Owl Cafe.
Jesus.
Yeah,
That's
all
great.
this stuff. Shelley Plimpton went from working in the Night Owl Cafe to being in the original Broadway production of Hair.
We're going to talk about that too. Now, she must be Martha's mother. She's Martha's mother? Hello.
I babysat Martha. Shelley lived with me, with Danny Sullivan and another buddy. We had a big place on 83rd Street, on Central Park West and stuff. Yeah, so I knew Shelley from the Night Owl,
Wow.
And by the time I got the gig in Hair, she was still in the cast. So,
okay, was Kay Cole in the cast when you were there?
No. Kay Cole, however.
Do you know Kay Cole?
Kay Cole was in my show Zen Boogie in LA, and so was Carl Anderson.
Because Kay Cole, who was in the original chorus line, who sang at the ballet, directed my daughter in Annie and in another show.
Yes, I know Kay Cole very well.
Oh my God!
She's
and
a
was
sweetheart.
Keith Carradine in Hair when you were in Hair?
Keith Carradine was already out of the cast by the time I went in. There was a woman by the name of Dolores.
So you were Berger. Who was playing Claude when you were Berger?
Well, different people would do it, And not only that, Radio and Ragni had a run of the show contract, which meant they could go into any Hair production anywhere in the world as long as they called in before half hour and said they were coming in. They'd come and do it. I had one night, I'm all dressed up and ready to go on as Berger, and at about 7:30, 7:25 or 7:20, I'm getting ready to go on 8 o'clock. Peppy, Jerry Ragni's coming tonight to do Berger. You're going to be Wolf. And I'll go like, oh, okay, I'm not Berger, I'm Wolf. I got to change my clothes, and now I got to be Wolf.
How often would that happen to you?
Not that often, but you know, I got to play Burger with Jimmy Rado,
Oh,
who
wow.
wrote the show.
Yes, he
I got to
did.
play Burger as Wolf with Jerry, and that was great to be with those guys who wrote it and stuff like that. As a matter of
Absolutely.
fact, I got asked to induct Jimmy into the Rochester Music Hall of Fame because he was from there in Hoboken. And Ula Hedwig, you must know Ula. Do you know Ula?
I don't know, Ula.
I'm surprised you don't. She was one of the original Harlettes with
Oh, wow.
Bet, and
Uh-huh.
she was in the cast with me. So when the producer of the show inducting all these guys, not only that, they inducted a bunch of other people, one of whom was with a guy named Pee Wee Ellis. Now, I played with Pee Wee Ellis. Pee Wee Ellis was in an offshoot of the Magoos. That's a whole other story. But that's a whole other show. But Pee Wee was James Brown's musical director. He
Wow.
was an icon. And he
Wow.
was getting inducted. And I have a beautiful shots of me and Pee Wee and stuff like that. I love Pee Wee. But you know, we'd be going to a gig and I didn't like to do drugs because I love to sing, you know.
We have to talk about that too. Go ahead.
And so I'm in the car and we're going to a gig, and I mean Pee Wee would drive me up to oh my God, the great George Benson's house when George Benson lived in
Wow.
Castle Park area of the Bronx or something like
Castle
that.
Hill. I went to
Yes,
junior high in Castle Hill.
yeah, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I'd be like, Pee Wee, don't ask me to play guitar in front of George Benson. You
Oh
know,
my
I'm
God.
like a little kid, you know, and all this stuff. And so we're going to a gig, and people go, "Hey man, try some of this." And I'm going, "Yeah, all right." I go, I put a little because I didn't do much at all because I had to sing, and I liked my voice too much. I didn't want to have nosebleeds and stuff. And so I'm in the car with him, and I go, "Wow, Pee Wee, that's great, cool. Yeah, man, but that ain't Coke."
Oh shit.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Pee Wee did that. He passed away about two years ago too. But Pee Wee's an icon, you know. But these are the things that I love. You know, I love that I got to be with Jack Benny. You know,
Okay, so
and
that's crazy that you got to sing. You Tobacco Road you did with Jack Benny, right? On the with
yeah, we had to cut 7 minutes down to two. I think we
oh,
did. We did like. I think I was born in the you know.
oh my God. And was Jack nice to you guys? What was he
Oh
like?
yeah, he was sweet, and he was older. They had shoe polish on his head to cover up the bald spots.
Oh
I
my
mean, we'd
God.
be like, you know, we were like, you know. But in the green room, Henny Youngman and Maury Amsterdam with fiddles,
What?
with fiddles. I'm in my little chair. I'm getting made up, and I'm going. I'm dreaming. This is not real.
That's
I'm not in
crazy.
Hollywood right now on the Jack Benny show with Liberace and for the kids, the Blues Magoos. And that
Wow.
show was so sneaky that they cut our electric suits out because we had electric suits, right? And they wired Liberace up in lights with his candelabra playing. They said, "Fuck it for the kids. We're gonna do this for Liberace." But I'm literally in the green room hearing, "Hey, what are you got?" And then more Amsterdam. Yeah, well, you know, if you take two chickens by their heads, I gotta be and they're trading forth, going back and forth, as if they had like 30,000 people in front of them.
Oh my God.
And I'm going, I remember being a little kid on my mother's chest watching the Jack Benny show, which she did religiously, and all of a sudden now, here I am. I'm like,
Wow.
yeah, it was
You did the Smothers Brothers show. Oh my
yeah.
God.
That
How
Smothers Brother bit is hysterical, where he takes the wig off. Did you ever see that one?
well, I saw when Tommy wanted to be a Blues Magoos and
Yeah,
he put the glasses on and the thing.
yeah, and he had the wig, and
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, and so his brother goes, "Hey, Tommy, do you ever think the guys don't want you to play with
Right.
them?" And they told us, like, when we say that, you guys walk off set and go, "No, no way," and walk away. So we go do that, and he goes, "All right, I can take a hint. I'll hang up my hair." He pulls off his hair, and the audience goes ballistic. I mean, 1967, you
Oh
know.
my
Yeah,
God.
yeah, it was great. But
Oh
our
my
second
God.
single got banned. Pipe Dream got banned because you're having a pipe dream. it was like 40. This was our follow-up single. That's what made us the one hit wonders, is because our follow-up single, which was on its way to being a hit, by that time, the drug culture, the Vietnam and everything like that, and the flower power, and it gotten so big that anything that referenced you're having a pipe dream, even though the song was anti-drug, it was like, you have to come back to reality. You're having a pipe dream. But they said, we can't play this. And so we lost the record.
Wow.
Mercury flipped it to the other side. That went to 40. And in those, I mean, that business is like McDonald's, throw it up against the wall and see what sticks. And
Right.
so everybody went like, okay, well, what was the last thing? Oh yeah, that last thing wasn't a hit. They're one-hit wonders, But the song still holds up. We've got our little place in.
Well,
in
no,
the,
okay, so we have to talk about some of the tours that you went on because this freaked me out. So you guys opened The Who middled and Herman's Hermits was the headliner? Is that
Herman,
was
yeah, this was the tour of 1967. This was it.
holy
This was it, or it could have been 68. I think it was 67. Because the
67.
Magoos hit broke, I think, in around 66, right?
It was 67,
That
yeah.
was the tour because the Who were not really well known yet. We had
Unbelievable.
done Murray Decay's RKO show with them, so I knew
Wow.
of them, and I loved when Can't Explain came out. I was like, oh man, these guys are cool and stuff like that. And then you heard the buzz was like, you're gonna see these guys, they break their instruments and and all that kind of stuff. And so now we were all three acts were signed to Premier Talent, which was a guy named Frank Barcelona, which was in 200 West. It was the office was our office, Long Hair Productions, Connie Denov, and then Premier Talent. So they packaged this thing, Blues Magoos, Who, and Herman's Hermits. We all went on the same plane. We all went out the whole summer.
Wow.
Everywhere. The Souvenir guys came out with us and everything else. But, I mean, I was the last person to go out with Keith Moon
Oh, jeez.
because I wanted to live. I have so many
So
Keith Moon stories.
you were not a druggie. I'm a sober
No,
person now. That was never your thing. You were never you never overindulged in alcohol
no,
or
what
drugs.
happened was when I was 13 and I was just starting to play, us little trench coats got hired to play in the Borscht Belt at the Concord. So all the ones from all the Brooklyn Knees crowd would come up, but they wanted to have their kids pacified. So for the kids, the trench coat got played so the mommy and daddy could have fun drinking and act out and do all that kind of stuff. So we were there for the kids. So I'm like 13 years old, and Ronnie Gilbert had just turned 18. And so he took a very big glass like this, if not bigger, and he went, hey, Peppy, you're not a man unless you drink this for my 18th birthday. And it was all vodka. I chug-a-lugged it. I went unconscious. Chemical poison,
Oh my God.
I locked everybody out of the room. They had to get a passkey to make sure I didn't die. I mean, all this kind of stuff. And I went, maybe I don't want to drink. And I never wanted to have a drink ever since. And over my life, I've had a beer here or beer there, but no. But then,
Wow.
who's in the village at that time? A band called the International Submarine Band. Who was the International Submarine Band? Graham Parsons.
Wow.
And so Graham was the first person to get me high on weed.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that's it. And I became a pothead like everybody else all those years and stuff like that. And then now I'm like I'm so squeaky clean, it's ridiculous. But I'm back to the child. It's kind of nice. And the greatest high on earth is having a good time on stage. I don't care who you are. The rest is just all smoke and mirrors. But when you go in that zone and you go there and you do what you love, and you're free as a bird, there's nothing in the world like it, other than maybe when God gives you a gift. Like that video I sent you, Breaking Away. That was
Yeah.
top 10. You can find a lot of stuff on YouTube. Just type in Breaking Away by Balance, and you'll see 100,000 hits, 2,000 here. I found that little thing because for years I was going, boy, I'd kill if I could find the footage of Balance on Solid Gold. And so
Wow.
I found that footage, but I wrote that song in 20 minutes. And dun
Unbelievable.
dun dun, and I wrote it on keyboard. Dun dun dun. Don't change to keep me waiting. In my lip harmony, going, oh man, this is fun. And then I had the basic chorus and the hook and the whole idea, and I pushed myself away and I went, where did that come from? That like didn't exist 20 minutes ago. And I just
Wow.
looked up and I went, thank you, God. Oh my God. You know what?
Wow.
And all the guys in the rest of the band said, that we don't want to play that song. It was like kiddie food to them, you know. You're talking about Andy Newmark and Willie Weeks. And I got to tell you a Bet Sussman story,
Oh,
which I've
yay.
apologized to Bet. Balance was probably my greatest musical band, right? I mean, how could you not be? Look who was in the band, right? So I came up with the name Balance because on the stereo, the balance knob on a stereo. And I went, yeah, it's like, we're not snakes, we have ears. Snakes don't have ears. I said, it's just left and right. Balance. And then I went, the balance of nature, the balance of scales, the balance of this. And I went, balance, the balance of black and white, the people. And I went, male and female. So the original band of Balance was me, Andy Newmark, Willie Weeks, Bet Sussman,
Wow.
Bob Kulick, and a most brilliant, lifelong partner friend of mine named Doug Katsaris, conservatorially trained since he's 3 years old. And you're talking like wizard time, you know, like Paul
Wow.
Schaefer, you know, just like Dougie, you know, play him a song the chart's written by the time you're done, you know. I mean, it's just amazing. And I have some cassettes of us all jamming that are, it was like Fleetwood Mac on steroids, you
What
know.
year was that?
Let's see, Paul Stanley walked in my apartment with Bob Kulick around 19, right after Zen Boogie, around 1980.
Uh-huh.
And I had known Bob from 15 years earlier. I used to see him in the Village. So I knew who he was, but I hadn't seen him in 15 years. And Paul comes into my apartment. We all lived up on the Upper East. We all lived like within walking distance of the. So Paul would come over all the time. Paul came over and says, hey, man, come on. I want you to meet my friend Bob Kulick. And I went, I know you. And Bob was like, you're managed by Lieber Krebs? Yeah. He goes, oh, we got to start a band. We got to start a band. But it was Bob who was this heavy Tostone guy who didn't want a woman in the band back then. He wanted it to
Ah.
be a heavier rock band. And I allowed myself to get prostituted from my original concept, which
Ah.
was I wanted male, female, black and white, the whole thing like that. And you know what? And I believe that's the karma of, even though Balance is revered, it really, there are diehard Balance fans out there. And if I go to a Balance site, they'll sing my praise. Oh, Peppy Castro is the greatest singer on earth, and blah, 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 you know, all that kind of stuff, which is nice to hear and stuff like that. But they're really, and Balance was worthy of it. I mean, the band was great regardless. But I had called Bet up years later and I said, I owe you an apology. I said, because I allowed my original heart concept to be prostituted. And I said, and that's why I don't think Balance was blew up. I said,
Wow.
in my heart, that's what I feel. Whether it's true or not, it's not. But I've always
Wow.
loved Bet. So when I see that I'm following Bet in after you, it's kind of nice. And she just let me get away with it nice and easy without torturing me.
Oh, all right. So let's go. Let's backtrack a little bit, and then we're going to move forward. So, nothing yet. Do you know that's a hit? Like as soon as you hear it, do you say, "Okay, that's it. That's a hit. This is a hit." Do you know?
I didn't know it.
Was that a quick written song, or did that take
No,
time?
we worked on it. That was that was a band at its best. Because
Mm.
bands are supposed to be democracies, and they're not. It's the worst thing on earth. If you've been in a few bands, you know what real therapy is like, because you got to deal with the egos, and everybody wants this, and that's why producers say, "Get him out of here, get him out of here." Because I go to hear a little more bass. The guitar player, I can't hear my guitar. The drummer, can you bring up the snare? They're like, get him away, and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But I must say that we wrote that in the basement of the Albert Hotel, and we collaborated. It was a
Wow.
harmonious. It was a total harmonious thing. Now, I didn't know it was a hit, but what I did know was that if you mathematically take, because music is mathematics, it's all intervals, thirds and fifth and ninth and all this kind of stuff. If you mathematically break down what we all played, I called it general cluster, because it's not supposed to go. But somehow the majors and the minors that we did and the little things that we did, and we clashed, and each guy invented his own part. All right,
Wow.
for Peppy, what are you going to play? Well, then I'd go over to the keyboard and I go, well, Ralph, what's it for you? What's it? Oh, I'm playing a C minor. And then I would go, well, then, and I came up with like an A minor seventh. But the was open chords, like an open chord C major thing. And to this day, I've never heard anybody ever reproduce it like the Blues Magoos,
Wow.
because it was amazing, because it put you into something that was supernatural. And that's what
Mm.
I remember. And I always heard it every time we did it. It was everybody's voicings and the way we did it. And it's like Gene Cornish. God love Gene. You
Oh,
must know Gene, right?
of course I know, G.
When you hear Good Loving, you will never hear another guitar player go. You will never hear another guitar player play it like Gene. It's just nobody else can do it. He was the original.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. Every time I ever heard him go, I go, that's why that's, and that's the record. That's the guy. And that was the thing with the Magoos. So it was like, in the minute we'd just go, I would go like, whoa! It was like a scientific potion, just mushrooming up, because technically it didn't go. Theoretically, it didn't go.
So now you're just like a young teenager. Or get back to your mother. So your mother's caring for your stepfather who's very ill,
Right.
but she's letting you like live this life and do all this stuff. And
I'm the baby of 5 kids,
okay.
right? And so 3 from my stepfather, and myself and my brother from my mother. So they merged the kids, moved us up to the Bronx. That was it. She had 9 generations of antiques, because my line on my mother's side goes back to the Civil War. I'm in the process of getting my house on the historical register, because behind these walls is 1760. And my house is
What?
built in 1760, yeah. And the first frontline nurse for the Civil War was born in this house in
Wait,
19 in
where are
1826.
you?
Well, right now I came back from Florida. I have a place in
Right.
Florida, and I'm in Orange County, New York, near Warwick, New York. 12 month near Goshen,
I was in the
Warwick.
Catskills my whole life. My father was an
Okay,
MC,
so
so
I'm a
yeah, I
half an
know.
hour. I'm a half
Yeah.
an hour before, and stuff. And it's
And
rolling.
your mother's family have been in this country all these years?
Yes, yeah, yeah. My great came from the woman came from Mary Jane Ferrand, came from Bordeaux, France, and John Richardson came from Carlisle, England. And he was superintendent of encumbrance for the city of New York. I got his badge inside there. I have his fire patch hat. I have their marriage license.
Jesus.
I have a story that would blow your socks off, but I don't even want to take up the time with all our rock and roll stuff about the Civil War with him and a guy who was his best friend who became a general. Long story short, they both went to West Point. The war broke out. His best friend Gustavus went down south, became Major General Gustavus W. Smith, and wrote the Confederate War Papers. I have the original book inscribed to my greats in there, all in the Queen's English, and my guy became a captain for the North. They both survived the Civil War. Gustavus went back to New York, and they went right back to being best friends, and they both died in New York. I have all their obituary clippings from the
I have
1800s.
goosebumps.
Yeah, I have a $75 note when Paul Revere was head of the Federal Reserve, was head of the National Reserve. Yeah, yeah. I have that inside. An actual Revolutionary War $75 note. It's
That's insane.
yeah. So and I didn't find half of the history of the house out till a year and a half ago. And we started researching. I got a grave on the property. I'm learning.
How long have you lived there?
I bought the house in '86 as a weekend house. And I would come up here, and then, I ended up getting married. My wife passed away from ovarian cancer.
I know, I'm sorry.
All that stuff, but now it's like, that's why I bought this mirror back here for my mother. She was like, oh, I love Italian Venetian. And I said, Mom, okay. I mean, that thing weighs a ton. After my mom died, I put it up there. I have more gold records coming too. I just ordered them. See, I never put my gold records up. I didn't give a shit, basically. But I have a caretaker who's a percussionist named Orlando Q. Rodriguez. If you look up Orlando Q. Rodriguez on Wikipedia, you see he's Grammy nominated as a percussion for Wynton Marsalis.
Wow.
And I met him through Jay and the Americans and stuff like this. And so he was always very handy. And people told me, like, Q was like, because I needed a new door on my barn like 11 years ago. And they said, call Orlando, man. He's really heavy, So Orlando comes up. He walks into my barn. He goes, Peppy, it's my dream to renovate a barn. All my life, you have electricity. And I go, Orlando, all I want is a door. Freaking guy talked me into it. The next day, I had a weld company digging up into my water line. All of a sudden, I'm in for thousands. There's a 4-foot trench. I'm going, what did I do? And then finally I said, Orlando, you live here rent-free. You use the cars, you use the Jeep, you use the truck. You run the place. When I come in, you pick me up at the airport in my car. When I leave, you drop me off.
Wow.
He loves this place beyond. And him and another buddy started researching the history on the house.
Wow.
Because there's nothing like it. So that's a new one of the reasons why I came back, because I'm still trying to do that. But this is my these drums over here, which you can't see. They're let's see. Well, can I? No. I'll hold off. But trust me, 1 or 2 sets that Joey Kramer gave me.
Oh.
Joey Kramer calls me up when Aerosmith is like all on junk and they're broken up and all this kind of stuff. But we were all managed by Lieber Krebs. And when he heard Balance, he called me up and he said, man, I love your band. I want to join your band. I was like, what? Wow, Joey Kramer from Aerosmith wants to join my band. I'm like, holy shit, that's amazing. And then I thought about it and I went, we're going to get back together and I'm going to be screwed for a drummer. That's exactly what happened. And then their career took off again. Joey and I are very, very close. I mean, we're really, really close and stuff like that. So he's a dear friend. I got a picture of him somewhere.
All right. So this is crazy, Peppy, because everything intersects. I am going to see The Who on Friday. Our very
You're going
good friend,
where?
To see The Who, because Lauren Gold, a very good friend of ours, is the keyboard player, has been for years, right?
Wow.
And so opening for The Who tonight at the Hollywood Bowl is the Joe Perry Project. Talk about
Is the what?
Aerosmith.
What project?
Joe Perry Project.
Oh, Joe, right.
Yeah. So everything is everything, right?
Yeah. It all runs into each other. And that's what I meant about the music. In the We Ain't Got Nothing Yet, it just ran into it and it mushroomed into the sound that I'd never heard before in my life. And to this day, I've never heard another song band ever do it. It was the craziest thing. But once it started taking off, I was like, then I know it. What the rush of hearing yourself on the radio for the first time is just like.
Do you remember where you were when you heard yourself the first time?
I was in the Midwest somewhere, and it came on a radio station in the Midwest. We were all in a rent-a-car doing a gig, and we were like, "Oh my God!" It's like it's. I mean, listen, You know, it's like the fish that ate the fish. Who inspired the Magoos? You know, who inspired me? You know,
Okay, so
Richie.
we have to talk about some of that because you guys played those old Murray the K shows when they used to have like all the bands. So Tommy James was supposed to do my show 3 weeks ago. He
That's why
felt
I sent you that flyer, because I was on the bill with Tommy all those times
and with
back
the
then.
Turtles with Howard and Mark. And Howard's I was talking to Howard the night before Mark passed. It's crazy. But I want to talk to you about
Well,
Mark.
you know, that apartment that I'm talking about on 24th Street, I sublet that to Mark because he needed a place when they were on Flo and Eddie, when they were on PLJ. And Mark, throughout the whole run on PLJ, lived in my apartment.
Unbelievable.
And
So
I
okay,
lived
so
up
now
here.
when you did those old Murray the K show, like the first concert I ever went to was the Lemon Pipers, the 1910 Fruit Gum Company, and Tommy James was the headliner in the Shondells. So now
I
that
was
was
on
like
all those bills.
67. So now when you would do all those shows and it was the Magoos and it was the Turtles and it was Tommy James and the Shondells, like how was it decided who's going to headline and who's going to did you
Well,
rotate?
listen, if you look at that poster I sent you, you know who the headliner was?
No.
Lou Christie.
Lou Christie. Wow.
And
When I see
I'm a
lips waiting
now,
to
and God
be
bless Lou, he
kissed.
just passed, you know,
I love that song.
you know, and so in later years, because of Jay and the Americans, I became friends with Lou. But I remember doing those shows, and when I got on those shows down south, because one guy owned like 20 stations down there. So if you got on some of his shows, you were on 3 or 4 dates in other cities
Mm,
that he promoted with like all those acts, you know, on that. And everybody went on and did their like Murray to K 20 minutes and stuff like that.
right.
But I remember going down there and going, Lou Christie is the headliner? I like couldn't believe it because, you know, look at, you know, the Turtles have a hit, the Magoos have a hit, Tommy James has got a hit, and Lou is the headliner. I was like, son of a gun, you know.
Wow.
Then you got to start to see how markets would, who was ever strong. Like we did dates, the Jefferson Airplane opened for us, and I'd be like, what? Oh
I
my God.
talk to China on social media, Grace's daughter, almost every day. I love, and so
Wow.
through, I yeah, so
Okay,
you were
okay. Here's another quickie. Here's
and
another.
and
Wait, here's
your ma and Jack Cassidy both did this show last year.
wow. Oh, that's great. That's
And
great.
so you were touring around with the Jefferson Airplane. You guys were on bills with Jefferson Airplane also?
The Doors, the
Oh,
Seeds, Love.
oh
Oh,
my.
you know what? I bet you don't know what the first actual real first rock festival in the United States is.
I probably don't. Go
Well, what do
ahead.
you think it is?
No, I'm going to be wrong no matter what I say
Well,
here.
most people will tell you the Monterey Pop Festival,
Right?
right? No, it was the KFRC station out of San Francisco's
Yeah.
Fantasy Fair Magic Mountain or something like that. It was a week before. The Doors are on the bill. The Magoos are on the bill. Smokey Robinson, the Miracles are on the
What?
bill. Tim Harden's on the bill. If you see it, I'll send you. You'll see
Well,
the
the
flyer.
airplane with airplane must have been, were they on the bill?
I think they were. I think they
I would
were. I'd
think
have to
so.
call it up online. But somebody told me about that, and I went, no, no. They told me that was the real first rock festival was this.
And
And
how
then
long was that festival? Was it like a was
it
it
was a week, a 2 day event, a week before Monterey Pop.
wow.
And all the bands, and it was huge. And I
Wow.
remember doing that because we were doing that because we were doing all these shows, and I lived in Woodstock at the time, and so the Magoos couldn't do Woodstock. But the Magoos played at all these other little events that led up to Woodstock.
So now did you guys is there any footage of that festival?
Oh yeah, there's a movie. There's a movie called You Can't Get There. You can't get there from here. And it's all a movie, it's a movie about all the sound outs that were done in Woodstock that led up to the Woodstock Festival. And the joke was, all these acts lived in Woodstock at that point. Even the Mothers lived there. Richie was up there, and the Magoos were up there. We were all up there, and tons of people were up there. So the woman who owned the deli in the center of town was a woman named Pan.
But that
And
wasn't actually in Woodstock. Woodstock wasn't actually in Woodstock, right? It
no,
was the Oscars Farm.
but the
wasn't it?
sound outs were, because
Oh.
Pan, who owned the deli, had a few hundred acres, and the town built the stage. And everybody, James Taylor with the soft machine and all this, all these people would get up and play for nothing. Just get up and play. And
Wow.
so the joke in Woodstock was that Dylan was running for mayor of Woodstock, because he would walk around the crowd and everybody wouldn't leave him alone. They would shake his hand. So everybody started goofing, saying, everybody's shaking hands. Bob Dylan's running for mayor of Woodstock, because everybody was shaking his hand. And that was the joke and stuff.
Did
But
you have a
that's-
relationship with him back in
No,
the day?
I didn't, other than bumping into him in the village. Seeing
What
him
about
walk
with
around like
Hendrix?
this.
Did you have a relationship with him?
With who?
With Hendrix back in the day?
A little bit, yeah, because he came in some Sunday afternoons and jammed with us on the night out on a Sunday
Jesus.
afternoon. Because
Jesus.
Joe Mara would let the bands rehearse on a Sunday afternoon. He did anything to get in there and having a shake and and an egg salad sandwich and watch the bands rehearse.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you have a long list of people that you have association with. So I want to just pop out some names and tell me how you're now we talked before we went on the air about Laura Branigan, because Snuffy was her MD in 85, 86. What's your association with Laura?
Someone told her about me.
When is
And-
this?
I forget the date. Let me see, because boy, I've been working on that X-Star. That X-Star that I sent you
Uh-huh.
started with Stan Lee in 1979. Can you imagine?
Wow.
And I would fly out to the West Coast for 3 different times to sit with Stan. I have his original hand type written notes on the company letterhead and everything from his secretary, Martha Conway at the time, from Marvel. Stan wants you to have these as notes. This is what you guys discussed, all that kind of stuff. It's like my treasure chest,
Wow.
I love that stuff. But Steve Lieber, who hitched me on, see, Zen Boogie was a big thing for me in LA. It was a spoof on the Mind Disciplines. Kay Cole was in the show. Carl Anderson, who was the original Judas in Jesus Christ Superstar, was in the show. A lot of people came out of that show and stuff. And it was a big hit in Beverly Hills.
What year was Zen Buddha?
This was 76.
Wow. Long time ago. Okay.
So I'm coming at it, my hair days, and I'm thinking, shit, I got approached by a character actor who was one of the original founding fathers of Second City, a guy named J.J. Barry, who you always saw in a jail cell on Barney Miller. You know what I mean? He was like one of these guys. And his wife was Carolyn Sheelan.
Hal Linden did this show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. Exactly. So, I got introduced to them, to the woman I was living with at the time for 7 years on East 58th Street, Diane. And she knew them, and they asked her, do you think your boyfriend would like to write some music for the show? Because they went to EST, Air Horse Seminar Training.
Oh, yeah.
And they went to EST, and so they wrote like a Mad Magazine kind of spoof on all the Mind Disciplines of the 70s. I said, okay. I wrote the music and lyrics to the show, and when I presented it to Lieber and Krebs, they had Beatlemania up at the Pantages in LA, and they produced it at this place called the Solari Theater, right in the heart of Beverly Hills. So everybody and their mother came and saw. I mean, Neil Simon came and saw the show. The next week, he came back and brought his kids, and I'm standing there with Paul Stanley, and he goes, "I'm dropping my kids off. They need to see this show." And then he comes back like 20 minutes before it ends, and Paul and I are in the lobby, and he goes, "Is it okay if I go in?" I go, like, Doc, are you kidding me? Oh, like, open the door. He wanted to see the finale because the Kiss was filming their movie, The Phantom of the Park or something. So we had to be in LA all the time. Meanwhile, I'm living up in the Hollywood Hills with their photographer, Barry Levine, who was a crazy, crazy guy who conceptualized a lot of this stuff. And he was like the most famous rock photographer at the time. show.
Wow.
So I'm living up there in the Hollywood Hills. We got our little house up there in the pool and whole thing. Who walks in? These bunch of scruffy kids called Motley Crue. They want Barry to shoot them because he does Kiss. Who walks in? Kim Fowler with this little band called the Runaways.
Wow.
Joan Jett. Joan Jett
Wow.
doesn't even remember. She doesn't even know she was in my house when she was a little kid in the
That's
Runaways, trying to get
crazy.
Barry Levine to shoot photos of them. And then Carol worked with, and Ricky and everything with Joan. And so I'm finally putting a Joan record up because I worked on her hit list. Eddie Kramer hired me to be one of the singers in the background stuff on that record, you know.
I've heard that you're on the background of like every record ever. It's like,
In my mind.
besides all the jingles. Okay, so wait, so how did you get hair? How did that? Because you're a rocker.
Yeah,
You,
I'm a rocker.
and
Tom Bones Malone.
I know Tom. My ex-husband was Letterman's head monologue writer. I know Bones.
Yes.
Hell.
Okay. So Tom is living on 83rd Street in my block. He just moved in. He's right out of Texas school, music school and everything, coming to the big city to make it and stuff like this. He's playing some bass and he's hired.
He's playing bass?
Well,
Not
Tom plays bass guitar too. He loves playing bass
okay. I
guitar a
didn't
little
even
bit
know
and
that.
everything.
Okay.
And then he plays
Mhm.
all those bones and all that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
I'm on 83rd Street. I pioneered the neighborhood. So I'm on there. I'm walking around like crazy hair guy and all this kind of stuff. And Tom comes up to me one day and we shared the same birthday, Tom and I. And so Tom comes up to me and he goes, hey man, he goes, I'm working on this record for this woman named Dolores Hall. And her producer's looking for material. You got any material you wanna do this? Now Dolores Hall was an amazing singer. I think she's passed on this, and amazing singer.
Hmm.
She was the girl they hired to tear the house down in the 11th hour. You know, like Tom O'Horgan hired her for the best little house in Texas. Like, get Dolores in here to sing a song. She was one of the go, and she was in Hair, right? So I meet the producer. They love my songs. They cut 4 of my songs. So now we're going into the studio, and I'm sitting there, and Dolores comes up to me and she goes, hey man, you'd make a great burger. And I go, what's a burger? I said, oh, that's the lead role in Hair. And they're looking for somebody to assume the role, and you'd be great. And I go, really? So
Did you already had
I already
fro-
had the hair. I already said, screw the hair straightening. I'm going fro all the way. So it was all the way. Yeah, I was a tree, and stuff like that. And so she says, why don't you come down and see the show? And I'm thinking, you know what? I haven't seen Shelley in a long time. She used to live with me and all this stuff. And so I said, okay, good. So she goes, come on down and see the show. And when the show's over, come back to the stage. So I go down and I see the show. Now, up to that point, I'm like this proverbial knee-high little, I was a rock and roll star. Ugh, they're doing a show about hair now. I'm all like, full of myself, like how commercial now. Oh God, now it's gone to a Broadway show about hair. I thought it was the lamest thing in the world. So I go down there and I see the show. I sit and I see the show and it starts and they're doing this whole thing and I'm start looking and they're getting into the show and I go, Peppy, you fucking asshole.
It's like the greatest thing ever. I saw the original show. It's like the greatest show ever.
And that's exactly what happened to me. I went, this is the fucking greatest thing I've ever seen. And I went, I have to do this. I'm all of 21 years old.
Are
And I'm
you
going,
nervous that you're going to have to be naked on stage every night?
I didn't even know any of that. I didn't even care. I didn't care.
Yeah.
What I saw going on, I was like, Broadway house, the fly space, the stuff swinging from the side of the theater onto the stage. I mean, all this shit. I was like, oh my God. So I go backstage. And now I'm not a ballsy guy. If somebody pushes my button, it takes a lot to get me to that point. But I'm not like, I don't make phone calls. I don't go knocking on doors. And, my childhood, feeling less than. Like, so the little phobias you carry on as you get older, into life and stuff like that. But I was possessed to want to be into this show.
Wow.
So Dolores says, come backstage. So I come backstage. I see Shelley. Oh, she used to call me Sunshine. Sunshine. She would always call me Sunshine whenever she saw me, even back in the night out, right? So I'm doing that. And Dolores says, come on. I want you to meet the production stage manager. So she introduces to me this guy called Fred Reinglass, who later, after in the cast, was nicknamed Dragon Lady, right? We call him Dragon Lady, right? And he was the production stage manager. And, he dressed in all leather and all, playing the part and everything. He said, oh, hi. And I go, hi, man. He goes, how'd you like the show? I said, I loved it. It was unbelievable. He goes, oh, good. Now I'm knowing they're looking for somebody to assume the role. And he goes, oh, I'm glad you liked it. And I said, listen, can I tell you something? He goes, yes, of course. I said, I've never acted a day in my life, but I know I can do better than what you have up on stage.
Whoa. Wow.
I did. At 20 years old, he went, oh. So Dolores sets up an audition for me, right? Now, Dolores lived right next to the Dakota. Oh, I have John Lennon stories going in the book, too. That's hysterical. If you want to hear that one, that's a good one. But
we'll
anyway,
listen to that one next. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So Dolores is in the building next to the Dakota, and I'm up on 83rd Street. And she said, well, you come on. She would listen. I'll go down to the theater with you. I said, you will? She goes, yeah, man. Come on, I'll go with you. I said, wow, Dolores, thanks so much. That's great. So I go, Dolores, we get on the train. We get off on like 50th Street and 8th Avenue. And the theater's on 47th between 8th and 7th, Broadway and 8th or something like that, the Biltmore Theater. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I get out of the train station, we were like a block. And all of a sudden I start seeing people lined up against the wall. And I'm looking like, these kids are like hippies. What's this? And we're walking and we're getting closer and we're closer. Now we're like a block away, a block and a half away. And then I start to put it together. I'm going, all these kids are auditioning. Because I didn't know anything about theater, but when you have to, by law, have an open call.
Right.
Equity laws are that you have to. So now I'm going, Dolores, are all these kids auditioning? And Dolores is like walking like this past everybody. She goes, yes, but you don't have to be concerned with that. So I went, Peppy, zip it. But like a little lemming, follow Dolores, just follow her into the theater. So I go walk into the theater. They took me immediately.
Wow.
I sang one song called Nobody Loves You When You're Down and Out. And I had worked it out. Then I go, just sing. And I had, my voice was in such impeccable shape then. I could sing almost anything, And I started doing all these blues notes and bending the notes up, a whole step to hit. And I was doing vocal gymnastics.
Wow.
They hired me on the spot.
Wow.
They hired me on the spot. And little did I know.
You didn't even do an acting audition?
No. I just walked in and I sang and they hired me in the spot. And I told them, I said, listen, okay, great. I said, listen, I'd love to do the show. I said, but I'll only do the show if you give me some meat. I don't want to be in the chorus. I said, if you give me, oh no, we want you to do a principal role, but you're going to have to learn the chorus parts so you know where everybody is on stage, and you'll only have to be in the chorus for 2 weeks. That's exactly what they did. They did that, and then I did the show for 1.5 years.
Wow.
And I am reuniting Saturday night with Ted Lange. Do you know who Ted Lange is? Go look he was the bartender on Love Boat. On the Ted
Lang, of course. Yes, of course. Yes.
So I am reuniting with Teddy after all these decades because his show called Lady Patriot about the Civil War is playing on Broadway right now in Theater Row. His last show is Saturday night. And I'm going with a buddy of mine who is Mr. Broadway, knows everybody in the whole community, and so I'm reuniting with him after all these years. We've been talking and all this kind of stuff. And he's got a really great show and a great hit on his hands. And so I told him I was going to mention him tonight because you never know who's in the audience. Because obviously he wants to get picked up,
Of
but
course.
he's brilliant and he looks great. You know, he has that sick ass smile that the minute you see Ted Lang smile, you just go like, okay, that somebody gave this guy like a key. You know, he's instantly in. You know, and so like that. So I'll
I've
see you.
interviewed a lot of people and have some friends that were on Love Boats over the year, of
Oh
course.
yeah, and two of the
Yeah.
other people in the cast are Gandhi and I forget the other woman's name are in the cast with him. So it's like a reunion of Love Boat, and
Oh,
he's getting great press all over New York and stuff like that. So that's another fun one. You
fantastic. All
know.
right, wait, tell us the John Lennon story. Tell us the
Oh my
John
God.
Lennon story.
Okay. May Pang
Of
is
course.
now with John.
Right.
And they're hiding out at a little restaurant up across the street from the Rupert Towers, where May lives, called Home Restaurant.
I remember home.
Right. So the guy who owns Home Restaurant is one of my best friends, Richard Ross. And I'm calling him up every other night from the theater at the Biltmore and say, Richard, keep the kitchen open. I'm coming by with like 6 kids from the cast because this kitchen would close at 10.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, and we're getting out at 10:15, you know. So I'd call him and I'd go up all the time. So what happens? I'm in my little duplex with my friend Jonathan Stewart. And he's another whole other story, but I love him and his wife Helena. They own Only Hearts, which is like a huge thing, and lots of stuff. Yeah, the record label, Viper Records, all this stuff. But we're all living together on 83rd Street in a big duplex, right? So the phone rings and it's Richard. Peppy, can you be at my house at 3 o'clock today? And I go, yeah, sure, man. What's up? He goes, I can't tell you. And I go, Richard, what do you mean you can't tell me? He goes, Peppy, I can't tell you. I said, Richard, come on. What are you thinking? Come on, what's all the smoke and mirrors? Tell me what's going on. He goes, Peppy, trust me, I can't tell you. So I go, okay, fine. Okay, all right, I'll see you at 3 o'clock. He's on the Upper East Side. You know, he's got a beautiful wife. His restaurant's taken off. It's like a whole scene up there and everything like that, you know. And so I go over to his house, 3 o'clock. The door opens up. I see a shadow of a man in the back, inside his house. And he goes, come on, man, thanks a lot. So I get in there, I get into the interior of the house, and all of a sudden he goes, Peppy, meet John. John, Peppy. And I look up and I go, oh my God, it's fucking John Lennon. I go,
Oh my God.
and all of a sudden I go like, you know, and I pride myself never getting flustered over anybody. You know, everybody's got to get on the pot and do the dump. So it's like, you know, yeah, you know, nothing freaks me out. But this is John Lennon, and I'm like, it's fucking John Lennon. I can't believe it. What does John Lennon do? Oh, mate! Starts giving me a big bear hug, grabbing me. Oh, mate, thanks a lot. Oh, mate, oh, you don't know how much this means to me. Thank you so much. And I'm going, John Lennon doesn't even know me. What the fuck is going on? Why is he making such a big fuss over me? And he goes, oh, mate. He goes, listen. Your country's trying to deport me. And J. Edgar Hoover wants me arrested. He wants me deported. My phone is bugged. And I can't trust anybody. But Richard tells me you can get me really good pot. And I go, oh, I'm smiling like, oh, this is great. And with this sick ass, like, mutated smile on my face, I'm looking at Richard going, Richard, are you fucking out of your mind? Everything's bugged. You want to make me John Lennon's dealer? Are you fucking crazy? And I'm thinking to myself,
Oh my God.
but I'm also thinking, this is John Lennon. I can't deny him. It's worth getting arrested for, even. You know what I mean?
God.
I don't want to deny him. So we smoke a bone, and that's it. And we hang out for a while, and we talk and chat and being business. I go back to my place. I gotta get John Lennon pot. So I call Richard up
Jesus.
and I go, Richard, I said, what the fuck? I said, does John know I'm not a dealer? You know, like I'm a musician and like at least I had a hit record and stuff like that. He goes, oh yeah, man, don't worry about that. John knows everything, man. He knows all about you. I go, okay, all right. So I get an ounce of pot. I call Richard up the next. Oh, I just lost your audio.
Oh, shoot. You have to
No.
make sure it's the best pot ever, right? I mean, you can't just
Yeah.
bring
Well,
dirt weed
I
to
was a
pot.
pothead and I only knew how to get the best pot ever.
There you go.
You know, and back then there wasn't that much that was good. You know, Thai sticks were just coming in, you know, Maui Wowie, whatever it was. Wasn't like today.
Making sure.
Everything's labradoodle, you know. I mean, it's like a crossbred to tear your head off, you know, and I don't smoke. But so I call Richard up, I say, okay, man, I got John covered. He goes, all right, I'll set it up. He calls me back and says, hey, okay, can you be over at 3 o'clock again? I go, yeah, sure. So I go over at 3 o'clock. Now I'm taking a cab. I've got an ounce of weed on me. I'm paranoid to shit, thinking like,
Oh.
you know, am I gonna get busted before I get to Richard because the FBI is fucking tracking me? You know?
Oh
And
my
so-
God.
And so I go over there and I get in there and I see John, and John's like, oh mate, thanks. And I throw him an ounce of pot. And he goes, oh mate, thanks so much, man. He goes, what do I owe you? And I go, John, it's like this. I said, I have gotten so much from you over these last few years that this one's on me. You know what he does? He puts his hand on my shoulder and he goes, oh mate, ease my peasant guilt. And I went, it was like above my comprehension. I was like, only fucking John Lennon could come up with a line like "ease my pain." And I went, "Fuck you! Give me $20." And I took $20 off of him for the pot. And after that,
I love that story.
unfortunately, Richard Ross got extremely ill. He got Hodgkin's disease.
Oh.
John and I would go to the hospital every single day. They did an exploratory on him. I was driving John Lennon home in a Volkswagen Beetle, a powdered
my
Volkswagen
God.
Beetle, back to the Dakota. Some days that we had Albert Brooks in the back, I mean, all this kind of stuff. And I'm going, John, this is insane. I have a Beetle in a Beetle. This is fucking nuts.
I have a beetle. A beetle.
Exactly. And after I started meeting him, every day at the hospital, I got it. I said, you know what? Ease my peasant guilt. I said, John does not want to be John Lennon. He just wants to be a normal bloke. He likes New York because most people won't chase him down the street and they'll just go, hey, John, hey, you know, maybe that's the extent of it for him. Every once in a while, somebody may come out, but he could blend in and be himself. And so I made a pact with myself that I would never call him John ever again. I would only call him Louis.
Where'd you get Louis?
There was a guy in Hair who always used to come up to me and go, Louis, I'm a guy who likes children. And I used to wear this big fake fur Afghan coat back then when it was cold and this hair. And I said, he's Louis. I'm a guy who likes children. Every time I saw him, I go, Louis, I'm a guy who likes children. And I'd give him a hug. And he would laugh his ass off. He knew what I was doing. I'd just say he didn't want to be John Lennon, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, so the like little bit of list treasure chest moments and stuff like that. But, you know, I got to spend a little time with him, you know, but being his
dealer and his driver.
While I'm a principal in the biggest Broadway show in the world, just crazy shit.
Wow. What a life.
There's an avalanche of stories like that.
Okay, so let's run through a few. So how did you break into the jingle world? And you had to like hang out with Will Lee. Will's a good friend, and I'm sure Will was around in those days.
Will Lee?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
Were you doing? Yeah, you must have been doing lots of stuff.
Well, I was there before Will showed up, even. But what happened was,
how did you get into that world?
Well, first of all, I met Billy and Bobby Alessi, who we became Barnaby by,
Right.
in the Broadway cast of Hair.
Right.
They were in the show.
Right. I know this. Yes.
And we used to sit upstairs.
But they were in the chorus, right?
They
Mhm.
didn't have a principal role, but they had a feature where they could sing this song, What a Piece of Work Is Man. And it was like magic. You saw these two twins with identical voices that sounded like the Everly Brothers. And when I met them, I was like, these guys are like two little birds. They sound identical. Oh my God. And it was like, and so we became a little clique in the cast. And I brought a guitar and left the guitar down there. So we'd start playing and I noticed that my voice could blend with them very easy. You know, I could sing on top of them, below them, anywhere. And I could just really just be a third Alessi, like, you know.
Wow.
And we started Barnaby by, and Ahmet Ertegun signed us on our first gig.
Unbelievable.
We opened up for Mary Clayton
Where was your gig?
at Kenny's Castaways when it was up in the 80s, up on the Upper East Side. And Jonathan Stewart, who I told you about, who's a brother to me, you know, one of my dearest friends, he got us the gig and he managed us. He was the first guy to manage us and stuff like that. And so he gets us opening up for Mary Clayton, who was signed to Atlantic, who had just come off the road with the Rolling Stones.
Wow.
We get up and we do one show, and all of a sudden some guy start talking to me, and I'm looking at him going, I don't know this guy's name, but I know I see him every week in Billboard, and I know he's big, and it's Ahmet Ertegun.
Wow.
Right? And Ahmet invited us back to his house between our two shows. We went back there. Within 2 weeks, we were signed to Atlantic.
Wow.
We did 2 albums on Atlantic and stuff like that. Yeah. And so that was like crazy.
And so
stuff.
then how did you start doing, were you already doing jingles?
So
or?
the Leslie brothers
Mhm.
had strong ties to a jingle house, which was right around the corner from the Biltmore Theater, which was called Lucas McFall, which was a guy named David Lucas and Tom McFall. David Lucas is the guy, More Cowbell.
Yeah.
He's the guy who produced that record for Blue Oyster Cult, and he's the guy who played the cowbell.
Oh my God.
It was David Lucas. David Lucas is well in his 80s now, and he lives in Boca. He's up there. But
Wow.
So we would go over there. I wasn't in the business yet, but I met a copywriter who was an independent copywriter there through them, a guy named Don Wood. So I was not in the jingle business yet or anything. And one day I'm up on 83rd Street, and this guy, Don Wood, calls me up and says, hey, Peppy, he goes, I'm working on a song down here. We're having a real problem. Do you think you'd come down and help me out and bring your guitar? I said, yeah, sure, Don, of course. So I go down there and help there. In the studio with him is a guy named Tony Smythe, who was part of a company called Ciccarella and Smythe. Back then it was Joe Ciccarella. Tony Smythe, later we went off and became Smythe and Company. But Tony was there, huge Blues Magoos fan. You were the Blues Magoos? Oh, you're that band. Oh, you got to write for me. Will you write for me? Come on, play me some stuff on piano. So I play him some stuff and he goes, come on, man, write for me. And so I go, well, okay. He goes, I want you to join my company. Will you join my company? And so I go, well, okay, let me see. He goes, hey, you know, but he's the rep of the company. His wife is the controller, but the guy who really owns the company at that point is a guy named Joe Ciccarella. And he goes, come on down and meet Joe Ciccarella. So I meet Joe Ciccarella and I go, I'm not sure about Joe Ciccarella, you know, because I can feel Joe Ciccarella's not sold on me, you know. So I'm like, so I call him up. I go, look, man, I'm fine with you. I don't know about your partner. You know, he goes, oh, don't worry about him. Don't worry about him. So I started that. Who was on the team of writers with me? A woman by Lynn Ahrens. Lynn, now, Lynn, an icon. She's the sweetest woman in the world. Lynn wrote Ragtime.
Wow.
Lynn wrote Rocky.
Wow.
Once on This Island, Zeusical, music in lyrics in Fantasia and stuff. So she's like, you know, and she always had great credits. She wrote all the songs on Captain Kangaroo and stuff like this. So I worked with Linny for 20 years. I used to sing
Wow.
demos for Alan Menken.
Wow.
When Alan was in assisted living for granted living for you know, struggling artists on 43rd Street. You know, it's amazing with how all this stuff. So then I built that company up because they would do 2-track demos, and I brought in drums, this and that, 8 tracks, everything. I said, house guitar, house piano, house from that, and all of a sudden we started doing demos. And then I brought Doug Caceres in, and within a year we had 2 floors down the block on 45th Street. So the company blew up, and then we became Sickerell and Smythe. And so I did 20 years in the jingle business, and I got vested in the Screen Actors Guild because of all
Okay, so
those
tell
years.
us a couple things, Peppy, that we might remember your singing
Okay,
from.
so oh yeah, the quicker, thicker, bigger upper. And Lenny wrote that one, but that was 15 years. You know, oh, come on down here. They're going to do New Bounty Fun Prince today. It's a country western spot. You know, oh, okay. You know, and you know, chocolate is scrunches when it crunches. That's why I love Nestle Crunch. Put your skin shined up, or a stick of juicy food. Yeah. You know, I'm shot. But Dougie came up with this one. Every weekend, I would hear a little ka-ching. You know why? By Menon. I go, yes!
That was you?
That thing ran for years. We did
I
every By
remember that.
Menon,
Oh my God.
on and on. Sodas, beers, Baby Ruths, this and that. The list was endless.
So when you were doing jingles,
but you know
what
what?
was
Wait. The nice thing was I got to help some people like Phoebe Snow.
Oh,
You
I
know,
love Phoebe was a friend of mine. I love
Phoebe
Phoebe.
Snow. I hired her. Safeguard the ones you love. You know, for Safeguard soap. You know, because she'd be like, "Hey man, got anything? You know, having a tough time with my daughter and stuff like that." And I'd be,
Yeah, her daughter.
Phoebe, come on down. And then I got
Oh,
her on a Kodak spot. I did a few things with Phoebe, but then it was nice. Oh, I got a sick ass Michael Bolton story. I hope Louis Levin is going. So, you know,
no.
Louis was one of the baby managers for Lieber Krebs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he knew everything about the business. Oh, he got me a porno to sing in fucking Germany. I couldn't believe it. We called me out one day. He goes, Peppy, there's a producer in Europe. He's a big balance fan. He wants to sing your title track of a movie. I'm going, great. They're going to pay you good money. They'll fly you over first class. And I'm going, oh, great, do it, Louis. I get over there. It was a freaking porno. Guy was the porno king of Europe. He owned 52 Gull Wing Mercedes. I'm like,
But oh wait, I have to give a shout out to Tony Vincent because she's on and I haven't said anything
oh,
the whole time.
Generalissimo!
I have to,
Yeah,
so all right, so
we have to give
you
Tony
say
the
Michael
props.
Bolton manager too. I don't tell me the
Yeah,
Michael
well,
Bolton.
Louis ended up leaving Lieber Krebs with Michael, and he
Okay.
ended up making because he brought Michael to the company. But in those days, Michael wasn't doing too well. You know, he hadn't broken yet or anything like this. And every month, Louis would get, Peppy, can't you get Michael something? You know, he could really use the money. Can't you get Michael something? And I go, all right, man, I'll see. So lo and behold, I get a string of Budweiser spots. I'm a Bud man, big bluesy, perfect for Michael. I go, Louis, okay, I'm gonna get Michael national radio. He'll probably make 10 grand right out of the box, And this is back in the 90s. It's
Right. A lot
and
of money.
oh, Peppy, thanks so much. Michael comes down. I got clients from Anheuser-Busch in the control room and everything. I brought Michael in. They love Michael. He killed it. Like, doing all his soulful blues licks and everything else like that. The date's over, and they go, Michael, we need you to do one thing for us. Can you howl at the end of the song? You know what Michael does? I will not howl. All of a sudden, you can hear You can hear a pin drop.
Holy
And,
shit.
and all the eyes look at me like, Peppy, who the fuck is this guy? He will not howl. Michael, it's not a big deal, man. They just want you to howl at the very end. Like, oh, go. He goes, I will not howl.
Oh my God.
You can hear a fucking pin drop. And I go, okay, wait a minute. Because everybody's looking at, you got to fix this.
Oh
You know?
my
So
God.
I go out and I know that mic was live and they probably heard me out there. They probably had that mic on and everything else. And I'm going, Michael, I said, all they want you to do is howl. Peppy, I'm not going to howl. I can't do it. I said, Michael, I busted my ass to get you this spot. He goes, I can't. I will not howl. I went, go home.
Not howl.
And I go, Michael, go home. So he goes home. He leaves. And I'm standing out there and I go, open up the mic. They open the mic. I said, play the track. Track ends. They go, they go, oh, that's great. Thanks, Peppy.
Wow. That's
I was dumbfounded.
come on now. Years later, did you ever have a laugh with Michael about that?
No, Michael
No.
turned into a different person. And sorry, when he got big, I went to go see him one night with my wife and my kid. And when he opened there, and poor Louis had to come out and say to me, Michael doesn't want to see anybody. Not only that, I prototyped all the vocals on his Fool Game record that Neil Kernon produced. All those backgrounds on every cut I sang on with him, me, him, and Terry Brock. Sung all the backgrounds on that record. He used to come over to that apartment and go, oh man, if I could have an apartment like this. He used to dream about it. And I prototyped in my little recording studio there. We sung all those parts so he didn't have to work any of that shit out in the studio. He never thanked me. I mean, he thanked me then. And when we did the stuff, we were all laughing our asses off. I'm Gumby, damn it. He was in his Gumby fold and we were cracking up. And it was a lot of fun. But then years later, he broke and he hit and stuff like this. And I went to see him and Louis said, Michael doesn't want to see anybody. I said, Louis, are you kidding me? I said, I'm standing out here with my wife and my kid. My kid's a little baby. Peppy, Michael. And I went, fuck that.
Has that happened much to you over the years? People turn like that?
No, but I've had my first aha moment was the Blues Magoos. Jefferson Airplane are opening up for the Blues Magoos in Cleveland.
Oh my God.
And we're big stars, and it's still the tail end of Beatlemania. And Magoos are on stage, and the kids are storming the stage as if we were the Beatles, And I'm like, oh man, we're rock stars. It's great. I'm a little rock star. And in the crowd, I see a little older guy with goggles and like a Snoopy Red Baron hat on and all this kind of stuff. And he's trying to come people. I'm going, who the hell is that guy? Holy shit. So they get the kids off the stage and everything, go back, show's over. I'm there, I'm toweling down, I'm getting death. I said, please come back. And they go, is there a Peppy in the band? And they go, yeah. And I go, yeah, I'm Peppy. They go, you're Peppy? They come up to me and they go, you know that guy who was trying to get on the stage with the goggles and everything? I said, yeah. They said, we just arrested him. He had a knife on him this big, and he said he said you stole his name. His name was Peppy, and he was going to kill you. I was like, oh, they don't all love you. I was like,
Wow.
Duly noted. Yeah, Pete Townsend and I used to go out every night after the show, and all people wanted to do was get us high. That was the brownie point.
He just had a relapse. I just read this yesterday. He had a relapse, taking pills. He was sober for like 30 years, but he's sober again.
Yeah. Well, like, so why do you think I got these on? But it's amazing. Speak loud, Pepe's deaf. Yeah. All those years of doing this, where I slammed the drums and something for pitch, so I could hear myself singing to the ends of the notes and stuff like this ear is gone, blown out. blown out. Oh, yeah, there we go. Got my little. Oh, this is my Grom hat. You see that?
Yeah.
It's a grommet. I literally went to Home Depot and bought a grommet and slammed it into my hat. I have like 10 of these. I call it my Grom hat,
Well,
right?
it's your insignia. I mean, you're always wearing that.
I did this like 15 years ago, and then all of a sudden I started seeing people wearing their hats backwards and all this stuff and trying to get little things up. But and then I own headhats.com because I want to put a hat company up of bald-headed rockers, but I figured China would knock me off in a nanosecond, so screw that.
Before we go, I see someone else on your list that I loved very much. Buzzy Linhart. God, I knew Buzzy from back in the day, and then I saw Buzzy again about not that long ago, right before he died. I
Yeah,
got
yeah.
to spend an evening with him, and he still was playing the vibes like crazy and just
Oh,
being
yeah.
Buzzy. So
Do you know Jack Scarangella,
I did not.
the drummer? Oh, yeah, Jack. He's like protege to Buddy Rich, you know. He played with a lot of people. He was in the Fabulous Rhinestones, Jack, and all this kind of a freak drummer like Buddy Rich, you know.
Mm.
And yeah, well, anyway, I met Jack through Buzzy, but yes, I knew Buzzy very well because Buzzy even lived in the Albert Hotel. He would
Mm.
wake me up every morning with his little girlfriend who we called Piggy, and you know, yeah, Buzzy was sad, and his drummer when it was Buzz Linhart and the Seventh Sons,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
That's where I come in with him. He's running around the village as Buzz Linhart and the Seventh Son. Serge, his drummer, was the biggest dealer in the village. And Serge lived in a one of these Soho buildings before Soho was gentrified. So the only way you got up there is if he brought you up on the elevator and stuff like this. And he kept a wall. You know, you ever see a library wall of books? This was on wheels, and across was a 24/7 fire in a big fire pit that he kept going because he knew, and he could lock
So
the
he could
doors.
just throw everything into
He
the
could
fire.
just push the whole thing in into the fire.
Wow.
I remember being in the rooms with Timothy Leary and stuff like this. I was the baby. They would hide me into the restaurants at the after hours, at the Googies and all these bars. At the end, they would say, Peppy, just keep quiet. And they'd walk me in like in between 6 or 7 people and said, just sit in the back and keep quiet. And I'd be going to bed at 7 o'clock in the morning, you know. And then the truant officer found me and he forged my birth certificate to sign me out 2 months before my 15th birthday. He made it that I was 16.
So you never got to tell me because we kept going off on other tangents.
There's too much to tell.
There's too much to tell. How did your mother handle this life that you led? And did she obviously saw you get successful.
Yeah, oh yeah, she did, thank God. When she came to hair, she was like a deer in the headlights. I don't think she blinked once. I remember that, you know, yeah, you know, I mean, that was great. She got to see the Magoos. She handled all my fan mail. I sent you a picture. And the reason I sent you a picture of it, you'll see stacks of teen magazines. And you'll see a
Yeah.
stack of fan mail. Because my mother was on first, she was Aunt Dot to all my friends. Because she would, I'd come back with boxes of fan mail. And she'd answer them all.
Oh.
Yeah. She was so sweet, my mother. My God, God
Ay,
bless.
ay,
I
ay.
was so happy to be able to take care of her in her later years. You know, that was nice.
Good for you. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I understand that you're in a new chapter of your life. You have
Always.
you have you have new love in your life, yes? New-ish.
I had, yeah, sometimes that, yeah.
Oh.
Well, first of all, I had a disaster, which was, I'm out of that for a few years already. And was dating one girl from Argentina. She's probably watching that, little Miss Capuso and stuff and things. And then we had a break. And so, you know, and I got incredibly busy. So I came here, I just recorded a bluegrass band here in my home studio. I'm doing that. I'm doing it. I have my buddy Gary Rutger, who's fabulous. He's a freaking genius. I had a show called Rockin' the Planet, which I did in San Antonio just before COVID broke.
COVID.
And there was a little girl in the cast at the time. She was 15 and she was signed to Disney. She was fabulous. And so Gary and I are producing her. She's bilingual. So Gary's in Florida and tied into a lot of people. Gary is one of the people who invented the digital chip that went inside the Rock Me Elmo doll.
Wow.
You know,
That's
hey man, come on down to Chesapeake Piers, man. I got a little boat, you know. Fucking yacht. He could, you know, he had to have a captain for. He goes, oh yeah, man. I you know, my first check from Hasbro was like off the hook, you know, the crazy stuff. So I'm doing that with him. I'm working on my little X-Star thing.
I was going to say, and are you writing your book? Are you working on it?
I'm working on my book constantly. Yeah.
Good for you.
And I have so many stories in there. I don't know where to pick. I'm doing a section now that I'm just going to call the list.
Okay, so give us one from the list, and then we're going to go. Give us one from the list.
Oh my God, one from the list. Oh, funny things like funny things like life in the city, you know, like and not industry related. I want to buy this apartment. Man, do I want to buy this apartment. And I'm thinking, this is perfect. It's adjacent to the school for the deaf. My speakers can face the school for the deaf. I'll never have a freaking complaint. The third level will soak up the sound. The first level will soak up. This is where I'll put them. I'm like, yes. I said, but I'm not buying this apartment unless I can find a garage space, right? So I think that. So two things. So the first thing is I buy the apartment, right? And I want to get this. I want to get a steam room in the apartment, which means I now have to run 220 cables up through the whole top of the building, up to the penthouse, and get it approved by the co-op board, even though I'm the leading co-op guy with the biggest apartment, but it's got to be approved.
Of course.
So I go with the guy who's doing my construction, and he says, it's going to take 6 months to get your permit. But if you want, I can get an expediter. What's an expediter? Oh man, he's a guy who'll get you your electrical permit in 2 weeks. Oh, how much is that going to cost? $2,500. And this is back in the 80s, right? Stuff like that. So I say, fuck it, I'm doing well. This is my dream apartment. I came from 5 kids in a room. Now I got 5 rooms to me, and I'm like, bam, I'm going to do it. So I pay the money. The next night on NBC, on tonight's Lightning News, 40 building inspectors have just been arrested for being on the tape. And who's the first guy in cuffs? But the guy the night before I gave $2,500 to get me my permit. And I'm going, oh my God. I'm going, oh my God. So I call the guy up. He was Swedish, I think, or from Finland. I go, Sven, or whatever his name was. I go, oh my God, I just saw the guy got arrested. What's going to happen? What's going to happen with my permit to leave? Oh, Peppy, don't worry. Another guy's taking his place already. Oh my God. Then I wanted the garage space, right? When I drove to the garage, I said, hi, excuse me. Do you guys have any monthly space? Oh, well, there's a waiting list. Well, how long is that? He goes, could be a few weeks, could be a few months. I don't know. He goes, but occasionally some things come up. So if you want to go on the list, we'll take your number. I go, no, all right, never mind. Now I'm disheartened. I drive around for 3 days. I'm thinking, fuck this garage and everything. I say, fuck it. I go to the bank. I take 4 $100 bills out of the bank. I drive over there. I'm going in there. Fuck it. I got nothing to lose. And I drive into the garage and I go, hey man, how are you? He goes, yeah. He goes, what do you want? I said, what do we got to do to get a garage space? The guy, without even saying a word, grabs the money out of my hands and he goes, number 34.
You gotta love New York.
And I go. So it's things like that. It's things industry related and stuff like that. But
I
there's so
love it.
many of them that pop into my brain. And I go, oh, I gotta, but I don't want to do a big thing. So I said, I'm ADD, adult ADD. Forgive me, but this section's called the list. These are like, this is like the B list. But nonetheless, lessons of life.
It's wonderful. Peppy, it's wonderful. And I hope that you sit your ass down and finish it. And
I definitely will. You know what I was going to do when we first, you didn't tell me we were on air. You didn't go like, oh, by the way, you just snuck it in. But I was all ready for you. You were going to go, and here we are. And everybody, welcome Peppy Castro. And I was going to go, I'm not talking to you. And you wondering why? I said, you waited 40 years for this?
except now I know the I won't howl story or whatever.
Louis, I know you gotta be laughing at that one, Louis. And Louis is gonna see this one way or another. So Louis, Mason, and Robin, Beck, and I, we are a group. We get together at least once a month, every time we can, at a place in Delray, and we have lunch and we swap stories. It's like a little skiffle group,
I love it. I love it. Every time I went back to New York, I had lunch with Mason back in he was still in New York. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. But I haven't, Mason and I have only seen each other virtually like we are now.
So, we scratched the surface. I mean,
we'll do it again, Peppy.
So much
got more stories. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it again.
I got time. But Vicki, this is great. I hope my friends are smiling. I hope we didn't put you to sleep.
No, everybody's having a ball. Everybody. Everybody.
Well, we are. So
we certainly are.
And that's why it goes, But anyway, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.